In the previous video, we were able to write this method, which is going to print my board to me every time I call it. Now, the next step is basically changing whatever in the cell that I use. So for example, if I use cell number 1, I should be able to replace this with an X or an O based on whose turn is it. Now remember, we had this boolean called turn that is going to tell me whether it's player X or player O's turn. Since I'll be calling this same piece of code multiple times, then it's best for me to write it as a method that I can just call every time I need somebody to play the game. And again, since I'm just changing the content of this grid, I don't need to return anything. You can make it return a two-dimensional array, but then you can also make it as a void method, which is the approach I'm going with. So I will call my method play public static void play, and my arguments or input arguments are going to be the grid itself. Basically, I want to get the board in its current form and then which slot is being selected. So it is going to take a character array, and I will call this ARR, and then another integer that's called slot. So whenever I call this method, I need to basically perform some selection based on which slot they chose. So I will start with a switch statement, and this is going to be based on the slot. Remember, the cases are going to be on which slot did I choose. So inside my switch statement, what I will say is, for the case when they select slot number 1, because remember, this is going to be an integer, although I will be dealing with characters, but I will get the user's input as an integer, as we will see later on. So if they say 1, then what I need to do is basically I need to check first, did I have this available or it's not available? So if it is available, what I know for sure is the character that's printed in here should be 1. And where is this character coming from? It's coming from my array that I'm supplying. So I will say if the character is equal to 1. So what is my character? My character basically is ARR of 0 and 0. Isn't it the case? So 0 and 0 is right here. So if this is equal to 1, and this is a character, remember? So if this is equal to 1, what I need to do is I need to check if it's turn or not turn, right? So I will go here and say if turn, that means basically if it is player X's time to play. Remember when we said if the boolean is true, then it is player X's turn, right? So what I will do is basically I will replace this with an X. So ARR of 0, 0 is going to be now X. Else. So when I say else, that means it's not turn. So this is not turn, which means it is player O turn. Right? Let me just comment this to make it a little bit more clear. Turn means it's player X turn. Okay. So in this case, what I will do is I will change this to an O. Now, is there something else that I need to do? The answer is yes. Now, when somebody plays here, what I need to do is I need to increase my counter, because basically I had some cell selected, so I had one valid move, so I need to increase my move counter. So what I will do is counter plus plus. Did I call it count or counter? I called it count, so it is going to be count plus plus. Okay, anything else? The answer is yes. Now, if somebody played, then the next iteration should be somebody else's turn. So I need to flip the boolean to whatever the opposite. So turn is equal to not turn. So basically, I'm changing the boolean to somebody else's turn. Now, what I need to do for the other case, which is basically when it is already selected, what I will do is I will say some message that's, for example, the slot is selected, or choose another slot. And I will need to repeat this for every single slot in my grid. So I will need to repeat it for another case, and then for another case, and then for another case. So let me just make sure that I close this, and I need to break here to prevent me from going to the next case. And then I will copy the same thing, but it's going to be case 2, and I will just change the numbers in here. So case 2 is array number 0 and element number 1, and this is expected to have 2, and again same thing here is going to be 0 and 1, and this is going to be 0 and 1. So we will need to do the same thing for the rest of the cases to complete our switch statement.